We don't usually cover other cruise line news here on the podcast or really on RealCaribbeanBlog.com in general, unless it's something that really hits close to home. And I think this week's news definitely does with MSC's announcement it's going to build a beach club in the Bahamas exclusive for its cruise guests. MSC announced they're going to transform a 20-acre portion of the Grand Lucayan Resort at Grand Bahama Island into a new private destination for both of its brands. It's MSC Cruises and Explora. Explora is MSC's ultra luxury line. And this is going to be a new beach club that'll be developed at the site of the Reef Village and will open sometime in 2028. Where have I heard this before? Oh yeah, Royal Caribbean's beach clubs, the Royal Beach Clubs, that is. Because this is MSC doing what MSC does best. Looking at what Royal Caribbean does, turning around, and then building its own thing. I mean, every cruise line, to some extent or another, borrows ideas from other cruise lines. I mean, this is just the nature of any industry. They're gonna, take inspiration from each other. This happens in the airlines, hotels, etc. But MSC clearly seems to always just copy everything Royal Caribbean does. I mean, look at their recent new cruise ships. They look like Oasis-class ships, right? And rather than focusing on that, I really want to talk about their new beach club because, of course, Royal Caribbean has pioneered the idea of going well beyond a private island and offering something different in a beach club. There's the Royal Beach Club Paradise Island, which is already open in Nassau, Bahamas. There is a new beach club opening in Cozumel. There's one opening this summer in Santorini, Greece. And there's another one coming online in Vanuatu in the South Pacific in 2028. And this is something that clearly MSC looked at, said we should be doing that because it's Royal Caribbean doing it, and then just came around and copied. Not only are they copying it, what's really astounding to me is they actually decided to pick the spot to build it on that Royal Caribbean had at one point thought about building its own port project. If the name of the Grand Lucayan Resort in Freeport, Bahamas sounds familiar, that's because once upon a time, Royal Caribbean had an agreement actually to develop land over there right before the pandemic. Royal Caribbean had an agreement with the Bahamas to buy the Grand Lucayan. The Grand Lucayan is in Freeport. Freeport's kind of a dump of a port, but it has this beautiful resort, and I believe this resort was in a James Bond movie once upon a time, like old James Bond movies. Anyway, the resort fell into disrepair. It was taken over by the government, and I think I would call it like a Superfund site. There's no environmental impact. It's just like this disaster of a resort that is riddled with debt. Nobody wants to fix it, but it's been kind of just like maligned. I actually went there when cruising restarted on Adventure of the Seas right after COVID. At the time, we thought Royal Caribbean was going to build a resort there, so I went there to go check it out, and I got a day pass there. It was okay, but anyway, it's beside the point. That was a whole project that Royal Caribbean had to build a new harbor, build a beach club, blah, 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 blah. And then basically because of COVID, I think because of other reasons as well, maybe the price tag was too high. Like Royal Caribbean was like, okay, listen, we had this whole shutdown, we can't afford this anymore. And I think they tried to renegotiate the deal. It went back and forth. Nothing ever happened, and obviously Royal Caribbean clearly abandoned the whole thing. And now MSC is jumping in to not only copy Royal Caribbean yet again with an idea, but also build it on the exact site that Royal Caribbean once upon a time was also going to do the same thing. And again, like I said, every cruise line borrows ideas from others. Royal Caribbean famously stole the idea for a virtual balcony. That the virtual balcony idea came from the virtual porthole from Disney Cruise Line. I mean, Richard Fain, there's a quote somewhere where he said it. He acknowledged it. He was like, yep, we saw that idea, and we're like, that's a great idea, the virtual porthole. Let's make it, or magical porthole, whatever Disney calls it. Let's build upon that. And they came up with the virtual balcony. But you know what? I mean, it's different enough, right? And I feel like in a lot of cases, you can find different enough. Certainly, Carnival recently launched Celebration Key, and not an exact copy of Perfect Day at Coco Key by any means. There's some elements to it that certainly reek of it, but, it's different enough. It's not exactly the same. MSC, though, has this long history of just straight-up copying Royal Caribbean. I was watching the World America ship tour that my good friend Billy from CruiseHabit.com posted, and I mean, their sports bar on board, which is in the Boardwalk neighborhood. They don't call it that, but it looks like the Boardwalk neighborhood. And the sports bar looks exactly like Playmakers, down to the colors of the motif of the bar. It's like exactly. I mean, it's audacious. how much they copy Royal Caribbean. And then, you know, from more of an insider baseball perspective, a lot of times they poach executives from Royal Caribbean to come over to the cruise line. But, you know, it's one of these things, I think, as a cruise line fan, it's just, you can't help but not roll your eyes at it. I mean, maybe some of you are listening to this say, Matt, you know, it's all's fair in love, war, and cruise line plans. And obviously, you know, it's not like this is a trademark thing or whatnot. But I just feel like in general, there's a clever way to copy. There's a way to, you know, see what the competition is doing. Say, okay, that's a good idea. Let's take that general idea, but create it on our own, right? And I don't think MSC does that. I mean, I've often considered MSC to be like the Soviet Union of cruise lines. They basically look at what other cruise lines do in the West, because they're a European cruise line, by the way, and they reverse engineer everything and come up with 90% of it they reverse engineer correctly. But that last 10% is always a little meh, which is usually why you see a lot of folks talking about how their MSC cruise was usually like, oh, it wasn't bad, it wasn't great, but it was just anywhere along those lines. And to be fair, I've not been on MSC cruises, so, you know, you want to call me a homer and you want to call me a super fanboy and biased, which I am, by the way. I am biased. But it is what it is. It's just hard not to look at this project and think to yourself, my goodness, this is an exact copy of that. And at the end of the day, we'll have to wait and see what their beach club actually looks like. There's not many details about it beyond the fact that they have these plans for it. Like, we don't really have a list of activities or costs or anything like that, other than the fact that construction will begin fairly soon, pending approvals and all that. So it's really more of a, hey, this is what we're gonna do. But off the bat, it just seems like MSC is once again copying. And of all the cruise lines, I really do think MSC bothers me the most when they copy it. Like, when Carnival copies, if an NCL copies, I mean, Norwegian is always so far behind the curve on everything that by the time they get around to copying something from another cruise line, it's already like 3 or 4 iterations down, and it's like whatever. But MSC, I swear, they've got to have Monday morning meetings where all they do is pull up the latest. They pull up RoyalCaribbeanBlog.com, look at what Royal Caribbean's done, and then, you know, they assign a team to start redoing that exact thing on MSC. I mean, I'm exaggerating. I'm being a, you know, super fanboy here, but I don't know how you don't look at it like that. Like, to me, they just go about their business so flagrantly in a manner that copies everything Royal Caribbean does. I mean, let's face it, I will not be surprised when they have a dog on board their cruise ship soon as a way to kind of try to, or they're probably knowing them. Let's see, what's like an animal that's like, I mean, a cat would be the obvious other animal, but that's like too, they want to, like, they don't even know they'd bring a bear on board or something. Something that's like, they want something cute. And the same thing of a dog, but I don't know, aardvark. Anyway, I just feel like they're just so on the nose with the copying of what Royal Caribbean does that I just had to vent on this particular podcast episode, because it's just, I don't know how anyone else doesn't look at it and say that is exactly the Royal Caribbean playbook. All right, friends, time to answer listener emails. It's the part of the episode where I answer emails you've sent me about Royal Caribbean. And our first email is from Mary from Maryland. Hi, Matt. Love all your content. My husband and I have booked a cruise in Star of the Seas for the end of July in a C-Class junior suite. We have My Time dining and also access to Coastal Kitchen for dinners, which we would really like to take advantage of. So, some nights we'll eat in the main dining room and some at Coastal Kitchen. We also have Lincoln Park Supper Club booked for one night. My question is about the automatic gratuities. Will our gratuities be allocated to all the different wait staff? Not sure how this works. We definitely don't want to stiff anybody on the hardworking staff. It's a great question, actually. And the answer is yes, more or less. I mean, the gratuities, no, they're not going to, I don't think it's quite as specified or specialized, Mary, where they're like, oh, Mary ate in Coastal Kitchen today, so it goes to this thing. They have a system for it. And basically, this is why the automatic gratuities, we talked about this on a fairly recent episode. It goes there. A portion of it goes to crew members who otherwise maybe wouldn't get some of those tips. When it comes to Coastal Kitchen, I'm going to change your question a little bit, because when it comes to Coastal Kitchen, should you tip extra for that because you're doing your automatic gratuities? That's what I do when I go on a Royal Caribbean cruise, and I did this when I was on Star of the Seas over spring break. We ate at Coastal Kitchen 2 or 3 times, I believe, and I prepaid my gratuities before the cruise, so there you go. in terms of tipping a waiter within you can tip any crew member you'd like to, extra if you'd want to. It kind of depends on a couple things, and this is why it's so vague in that regard in terms of tipping. Like, part of it is like how many interactions you have with the crew member. Did you have the same waiter every single time? So like, I guess you don't have to. Certainly, I wouldn't go as far as to say you should be tipping your Coastal Kitchen waiter, but if you do have the same waiter a couple of times, that might be worth it. If a waiter goes out of their way to make your cruise better, like, maybe you have a special request, maybe they're just very social and pleasant, you could certainly tip them, $10 here, $20 there. Depends on how many nights you're there and the situation. So I would say, could you go into Coastal Kitchen and not tip? Sure, because your automatic gratuities do cover those things to some extent. But I think if someone does stand out, and this is true of any crew member, whether they're in a bar, a restaurant, stateroom attendant, if they stand out, if they go above and beyond what you're probably expecting, I think it's worth, maybe recognizing that. Next email is from Steven. Hi, Matt. Love your videos. Listen to your live chats every Tuesday while I'm at work. Mondays are a bit late. I have to wake up at 3:30 a.m. Your advice has made a huge difference for me and my wife's honeymoon a year and a half ago. My wife and I have a cruise booked on Icon in February 20th of 2027, booked through Jen Green at MEI Travel. The cruise is a Western Caribbean cruise, and I have two questions. First, being that the Royal Beach Club Cozumel will be open by then, based on your experience at the Royal Beach Club Paradise Island and your experience at the Paradise Beach Club in Cozumel, would you go to the new Beach Club in Cozumel or Paradise Beach Club? Well, Steven, you're going to have to ask me this question again, like, sometime right before your cruise, like in January, because I can't compare something that is not open yet. Let's assume for a second that it was exactly like Royal Beach Club Paradise Island, which I imagine will be closer to that than not. I would really the price is going to be the biggest component, the biggest dictator as to whether or not. Because in Nassau, when I look at the price, like I'm going to the Royal Beach Club next week on Utopia of the Seas, and in large part I'm going there because I was able to get a really great price. Thanks to a variety of different sales, I think I was able to get it for like $90 a person, which is, I think, a steal of a deal to go to the Royal Beach Club. But if that price had been $150 or closer to $200 a person, I'm not so sure I would have gone for it. And in the case of Nassau, I just would have stayed on board the ship. In the case of Cozumel, you're right, you have some great alternatives like Paradise Beach Club. And it's really going to come down to the price. That would be the biggest thing, because both are going to offer, I am sure, advantages and disadvantages to it. So it's really going to come down to price and also what will be the differentiating factors in the new Royal Beach Club Cozumel versus what we've seen in the Bahamas there. So I can't answer your question firmly today because I don't really know. Like, Royal Caribbean hasn't really totally outlined every single thing we can experience there, but I think you also have to have boots on the ground to, understand it. My second question is, my brother and I are planning a splitting cabana at Coco Key for our group of 6. The choices are between the Hideout Cabana and Hideaway Beach, and the over-the-water cabanas in the Coco Beach Club. Being able to be late February, do you think the ocean will be too cold, thus lessening the benefits of the over-the-water cabanas? Oh, definitely do the Hideout Cabana. As long as you don't care about the adults-only thing, the Hideout Cabana and Hideaway Beach has its own private pool. I'm a pool guy. I'll love that. The over-the-water cabanas are absolutely stunning and beautiful, but the problem with them, it is February, so it could be chilly, and I'm using air quotes there. I'm sure someone is listening to this episode from upstate New York and thinks that I'm a big baby because it's below, 85 to go into the ocean, but you're right, but I'm still going to stick by my guns there. Our next email is from Simon Evans. Hi, Matt. Love the podcast. Been listening since episode 170. I recently reached Diamond Plus status, but I'm probably a bit of an untypical listener because I live in the UK and I've never cruised outside of Europe before. This summer, I'm sailing with my wife, Amy, and 2 kids, 3 and 6 years old, on a transatlantic itinerary on Harmony of the Seas. Since we started cruising on our honeymoon in 2016, we have always wanted to do a transatlantic cruise, but the dates have never worked out because we're teachers until now. This summer, Harmony is heading back to the U.S. early to make way for a Legend of the Seas out of Barcelona. The itinerary perfectly falls during the summer UK holidays. The ship will dock in Port Canaveral, and I'm feeling a bit nervous having only disembarked in smaller European ports like Southampton, Copenhagen, Barcelona, and Rome. I've never visited the U.S. before. What should we expect once we arrive in the U.S. for the first time? Will immigration lines be long? In Europe, you just walk straight off. Our ESTAs have already been approved. That's the visa thing that they have now. Anyway, On Disembarkation Day, we've decided to check out Kennedy Space Center. It will be relatively easy to get a cab there, or should I hire a private transfer in advance? We have decided to book 5 nights at Disney World before flying back to the UK. Can you recommend the easiest way to make the transfer from Kennedy to Disney, please? Simon, great email. So, I've never done a transatlantic, so to be fair, I don't have personal experience with this one. But I don't think it'll be too bad, because Port Canaveral is still, it flip-flops with Miami, with either being the number 1 or the number 2 cruise port in the world, or at least in the U.S., for traffic. So it's a big cruise port. You can handle it, no problem. That shouldn't be an issue at all. When you disembark the ship, it's very similar to Southampton. The only difference is after you collect your luggage, you'll go through passport control over there. And it's, as a U.S. citizen, it's a little bit different, but you're coming in from it, from a transatlantic. So I don't think it'll be too bad. I've never heard many horror stories about that. I've heard horror stories about lots of things on cruises. That's not usually one of them, so I wouldn't worry too much about it. You'll have a passport, so that's easy, and just follow along and answer their questions accordingly. But it's the cruise terminal is actually really easy in Terminal 1. It's an efficient one. I think you'll find it very simple. For immigration lines being long, you never know. But I don't think it'll be a problem. Because, of course, in Europe, especially, well, you're not in the European Union anymore. But anyway, it's a little bit, the rules are definitely more relaxed compared to coming back in the U.S. But since you're not coming into an airport, flying in is a totally different experience than cruising in. So I think you'll be okay. Yeah. But yeah, Uber is king here, or Lyft if you'd like to. Definitely, renting a car, you could do that. I think for you, especially because, and I would feel the same way coming to the UK, I don't want to drive on the other side of the road. Just do Lyft or Uber. Anywhere you want to go, just use that. This is true for getting Kennedy Space Center. This is true for getting from Kennedy Space Center to Walt Disney World. Lyft or Uber, definitely the way to go. I think you'll find it very, very simple there. So thank you for the email. Next email is from Chef Steven. With the latest announcement that the plans for the new port in Tampa being scrapped made me think the older ships in Royal Caribbean's fleet are really the ones that could fit under the Sunshine Skyway Bridge, as well as the bridge in Baltimore. The hints we've been getting from Royal Caribbean have been that the Discovery class will fit through the Panama Canal. So, you have theorized that it'll be around a Freedom class size ship. However, do you think there's any consideration that it will be small enough to fit under these bridges, or has Royal Caribbean made any decision on perhaps removing ships entirely from Tampa and Baltimore because of these bridges? Thanks for all you do. Of course, officially, Royal Caribbean hasn't said a thing. So, the short answer to your question is we have no idea, because Royal Caribbean hasn't shared any details about the size of the ship. You're right that Michael Bailey has hinted about the ship being able to fit within the Panama Canal, which could mean a lot of things, right? My personal opinion, based on, I'll call it reading tea leaves. It's not what Royal Caribbean has said. It's just kind of the way they've talked about certain things. I firmly believe this ship is not being designed with Baltimore or Tampa in mind. I don't think they care about that as it relates to the design of this ship. I think they're building the Discovery class to be a successor to ships that currently serve markets that can only be served by older ships. What I mean by that is, itineraries like the Adriatic, to some extent Alaska, places that big ships can't go. So Royal Caribbean sends like Rhapsody of the Seas. And the problem is Rhapsody of the Seas and the Vision class they're aging. They're 30 years old, right? They're going to be more than 30 years old by the time the Discovery class hits. And the issue, there's like two issues. One is it's an older ship. So the experience certainly doesn't, match up as well as, say, an Icon class ship or an Oasis class ship. And then there's also the pricing, because as you all know, Royal Caribbean sells on average, a cruise on a Vision class ship will cost you much less than a cruise on a Icon class ship. And so, putting a brand new piece of hardware in a market to replace an really old, aging piece of hardware, not only do you have a better guest experience, but you also are able to charge more for it. So that's like, Royal Caribbean's eyes, that's win-win right there from a business perspective. And I think that's their goal. I truly believe in it, and it's kind of, again, the name Discovery class. They're looking to go to places. I don't think Discovery class ships will be doing 7-night cruises out of Miami to, Cozumel, Costa Maya, and Roatan. Could be wrong on that, but I think they're looking to use these ships in other markets because, again, they're quote-unquote smaller, which is why some people have really been led to believe, I think mistakenly, that they're going to be in places like Tampa or Baltimore. If they were able to fit in those places would be a coincidence. I don't think it's their intention or primary goal at all. I think they're just looking to build ships to replace the Vision class, which is something they've said on record, and of course that could have changed. But I think they're looking to replace those ships regardless of Tampa or Baltimore. I think they're looking at the destinations it sails to, not its home port. And I don't think that's really in the consideration. Again, I could be totally dead wrong on all this, and many times I am really totally dead wrong on a lot of these things. But in this case, I feel pretty good about that it's not going to be necessarily in line with that. So anyway, call me crazy, and we'll have to wait a couple years before to figure that out if I am crazy or not. But that's my take on it since you asked. And we have another email coming in from Rob Tafian from New Jersey. I'm sure this has been covered before, but I'd love to have an episode about communication while on board. I have 4 kids, several of which are under 13, so they can't have Royal Caribbean accounts to use the chat feature in the app. I don't particularly love the chat feature either, since there's no notification you have a new message in there. All my kids do have phones, but I don't particularly want to pay for the Wi-Fi package for 6 people on a 7-night cruise. I want to give them their independence, but I want to be able to talk to them, or me, or my wife easily. I don't think walkie-talkies work well on these megaships either, so what's the best answer here? Rob, it's a great question. Because the easiest option is what you already poo-pooed, which is buying them all an internet package. You have a family of 4? You have 4 kids. I mean, you could buy a 4-device internet package. Each of them has 1 login. It would be costly, but I think it's not the most expensive thing you'll ever buy on a cruise. That would be the easiest, simplest solution out there. And I agree, walkie-talkies are a terrible idea for a variety of reasons, so we'll skip that. Okay, so what are you left with? You're right. The Royal Caribbean app, you could log in, have them log in with your accounts, but you're right, notifications will be impossible because you'll be messaging yourself essentially and you won't get notifications. So that's kind of we tried that at one point with our kids. It was not fun. Your only other option truly is to rely on a internet pass through your cell provider. This is something that's come out that's fairly new. Verizon has this and AT&T has this. I believe T-Mobile does. Like back in the day, if you turned your cell phone on during a cruise, you would rack up like crazy roaming charges. In the case of AT&T and Verizon, assuming you have a post-paid plan, so not a prepaid one and all that, you can verify with your carrier if that's the case, they have a day pass. I've tested the AT&T one out extensively, and full disclosure, they allowed me to. They gave me a device to test it out in, and it works pretty darn well. You pay a single fee. The problem is you're going to pay per line, and it's like $10 or $15 a day for 24 hours. Now, that still might be cheaper than Royal Caribbean, so you have to take a look at it. But that'd be across 4 lines, which might be the issue. That's your only other alternative, other than truly old school, no digital communication. You rely on messages. You have a whiteboard in their room, so that you can check in, check out. You could rely on, all right, tell the kids, listen, we're not paying for it, so this is what we got to do. Every hour or 2 hours, 4 hours, whatever, you've got to come. We'll be over here at this place. Come find us. Just come say hello, check in, and we'll go from there. The whiteboard idea is, people leave little messages for each other. There's a lot of trust that's going to be involved with this, Rob. That's really the name of the game. So in terms of costs, you'd have to do the math on it because you've got 4 devices. That's the only thing. So you pay $40 a day. I'm willing to bet Royal Caribbean's Voom package is going to be the cheapest, easiest one in the great, especially for a 4-device multi-package. I don't see a way that works better because the internet pass that the cruise pass that the cell phone carriers provide is probably better for cherry picking. Like if you wanted to do it, and this might work actually better for you now that I think about it. Don't forget, sea days are really the target here. Although with your kids, it'll be gone every night. But if you wanted to say, okay, I only want to use it on day 2, 4, and 6 and 7, you could do that and just have only turn on the cell phone for those days, and that would cover that. You could make that argument. I just think that if you do the math on and realistically, they're going to want to use it in the evening hours. That's when kids are probably the most active on board the ship, right? They're going out teen club or Adventure Ocean or whatever they're doing. That's when it's most useful. So I hate to say it, I don't have a better idea than the internet package. I mean, you're right. You could use the cell phone package. By the way, before anybody messages me back about eSIMs on cruise ships like Gig Sky and Skyroam and things like that, they don't work very well. I don't think they work nearly as well as the carrier ones, like from Verizon and AT&T. I wouldn't recommend them. I don't think they're fully baked yet. I think they're more hype than reality. So for that reason, I would probably skip it. All right, there you go. There's our episode for today. Of course, you want to email me your questions. You can always email me your questions, comments, whatever, at matt@royalcaribbeanblog.com, MATT @royalcaribbeanblog.com. Until next time, I'm Matt. We'll talk again real soon.